Today's video is sponsored by Brunt Workwear. Hey guys, I'm Evan. Welcome to Country View Acres. So today I'm going to try to address a problem that we've had. So we've had a lot of water trough leaks throughout the last year, and everywhere that water leaks, the cattle try to stand in it, they try to lay in it, and we got a bunch of mud holes. So this right here, this is probably the worst one that the cattle have caused. That's super soft. If I was to step in that, my boot would go in about a foot deep. It's very soft mud. But you can see we've got it all through here, and then it comes around over to the small trough. But this all needs to be fixed. So I've got that pile of topsoil over there, so I'm just gonna use scoops of dirt from it, and we're gonna try to build this back up. In fact, we'll probably build it up a little bit higher because I'm sure that this is gonna settle and it's gonna incorporate. But we have this area to fix here, and then I've got another area to fix back at the white barn, and then we have another huge hole over at the pig pen, which you can imagine the pigs make a big wallow, and it's probably going to take the most amount of dirt. And the reason we're going to fill in the pig's wallow is because they made it right next to the fence and under their water trough. Needless to say, that didn't go very well. I think I lost count, but I think that was about 12 buckets of dirt. To keep adding to that and then keep kind of like mixing it with that water and mud so it would soak up that moisture and finally start to pack down. Still feels a little bit spongy, but the tractor's not sinking in anymore. And I mean, I think I got fairly decent, but the bad thing is I hit my little structure that I've got to protect the water hydrant. I hit it with the bucket and I pulled it out. So it's not like this really protected the water hydrant very well anyway, because the cattle would get in here and they'd mess with these hoses and we constantly would have water leaks. In fact, last month, we probably had the worst amount of water leaks we've ever had. And here, like a few weeks ago, they went and they read our meter, our water meter, and they called us because the water meter was so high. We ended up using, last month, we used 41,000 gallons of water. Now my water bill usually runs around $120 a month. Minimum bill, I think somewhere around 50. And that's because, you know, we use a lot of water for the livestock. But this latest water bill ended up being about $350, about 3 times the amount of water that we normally use. So I came out here, I ended up finding like 4 water leaks. A lot of it was like, you know, right in here, like it'd be leaking where some of these hoses went together, or where some of these fittings were on the hoses. And You know, a lot of that was just caused by the livestock. But yeah, that's why these big holes form, is there's constantly like dripping water into this area, stays muddy, and then they keep standing in it and messing it up. And it was kind of hard to tell whether I had a water leak or not. I mean, I can look at this and I can say there's no water on the hoses. I don't see any water overflowing out of the water troughs. But when there's a big puddle on the ground right here, it always makes you question whether I do have a water leak or not. So that's one reason I want to fill these in. I want to get rid of these puddles, and then if I get a new water leak, maybe it'll be easier to identify. So even though this little structure doesn't work very well, I should probably try to fix it real quick. So I'm going to grab a ratchet strap, maybe some lag screws, something I can try to put this back together. That whole hydrant's loose in the ground from them guys messing with it. All right, it's time to feed Ellie. And we did go and we picked up the materials to build a milking stanchion. We've come up with a design, and it's going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be kind of like the traditional one if you would look up a milking stanchion. I'm coming, hold on. There's Teddy. He don't like us anymore. He runs away. Which Rebecca's very disappointed because she wants to pet on him and she can't get close to him anymore. So the next mud hole I have is back here. And we used to have a water trough here, like over the winter, maybe in the spring a little bit too. And it just would leak, it would overflow. And of course they'd stomp in it. So then I've got this big, huge mud puddle here. And I think the way I tried to fix the last one was probably the wrong way to do it. I think the right way to do it would probably be to take and dig all this mud out, get all of the wet mud and dirt out of there, and then fill it up with dry material, and then it would pack down, it would fill in the way it should. So I think to tackle this one, probably gonna have to use the excavator. So like I said earlier, today's video is sponsored by Brunt Workwear. So a few months ago, I stopped wearing boots because my knees would hurt so bad at the end of the day after wearing boots all day long. And I started wearing tennis shoes and my knees started feeling better, but I missed having the protection of that leather and having the protection of that safety toe, especially after smashing my toes a few times. So I decided to try out Brunt boots. So I'm currently wearing the Omen. This is a slip-on shop boot and it has this elastic area in here and it makes the top of the boot stretch open. So it makes it easier to put on, easier to take off. And on the inside of the boot, it has this nice thick cushion insole, makes the boot really comfortable, makes it feel like I'm wearing tennis shoes instead of boots. So the Omen is made with water-resistant leather that's sourced from USA hides. The sole of the boot is oil, slip, and heat resistant up to 572 degrees, comes with a composite safety toe, and it is electrical hazard rated. Brunt boots are honestly priced and a great value. So if you're looking to upgrade your boots or maybe you need a new pair, try out a pair of Brunt boots. If you don't like them, you can always send them back. Get $10 off your first purchase today by going to bruntworkwear.com/countryviewacres. That's bruntworkwear.com/countryviewacres and use code countryviewacres. Link in the description. So it's already about 5 in the evening, so I don't think I'm gonna dig out that mud hole now. But in the morning, I believe that the pigs will be ready to be picked up from the processor. So I think I've got everything ready. We're only using 2 of these freezers, but I've turned the rest of them on. So this one is empty and it's cold and ready. This one's ready and that one's ready. And then I've got a total of 6 coolers here. So one of these large coolers, it should hold around a half a hog. So all 6 of these should be able, I should be able to haul all 3 pigs home. Now, most of this is all going to family. So my sister lives a few hours away. My aunt lives a few hours away. We're gonna have to take some of the meat and store it in these freezers until the next time they come and visit. And just in case somebody isn't home and we have to deliver it a day or so later, we should have plenty of freezer space in there to fit all of the pigs. So I think we're ready to go. I'll just have to wait and see in the morning whether they're ready to be picked up. All right, it's next day now. I haven't heard anything from the processor about the pigs. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna start on that next mud hole. We'll try to get the excavator inside the barnyard. Hopefully Ellie and the calf don't get out. Well, I decided to bring a little bit of feed for Ellie. That'll help keep her in one spot, but we'll have to keep our eye on Teddy, the little calf, make sure he doesn't get out. Go in there with your mama. So the plan is to dig out all of the mud, all the wet soil, all the way back to here. And the trick about this is my water line runs through here. So the water line, let me see, I think the water line runs like right here, right inside of this edge here. And then it turns and it goes down that alleyway over there. And this is my water line. Everything from the water meter out to the house is mine. It's my responsibility. They don't come and mark it. They have no idea where it is. It's my responsibility to know where this water line is, and I'm just gonna have to be careful as I do this today. Well, that didn't take long at all with the excavator, and I got all the water out of there, most of the mud. There's just a little bit of mud right here in the middle, but overall, I think it's cleaned out good enough. So now I'm gonna probably wanna haul this mud off first with the big tractor so I have a bigger bucket, so maybe I don't take as many trips. Well, I decided to bring the dump trailer. I think this will speed it up. I tried to get it fairly close to the fence here. You know, we still got almost a foot in between the fender and the fence, but hopefully I can reach over this with the bigger tractor, dump the muddy soil in here. It'll speed things up. I won't have to drive in and out and drive every single bucket full down to the other end. So let's get to it. Well, I got quite the load of dirt. You wouldn't think it was that much dirt there, you know, when you see it in a pile, but when you see it in the trailer, it looks like a lot more, doesn't it? But I think I was like 10, 11 bucketfuls of dirt to get that cleaned up. So we'll go dump it, and then we'll probably put about 13 buckets of dirt inside of here and bring it back, because we're gonna need a little extra to fill that in. Maybe any four-wheel drive on. All right, we got a full load of dirt in the dump trailer, and hopefully I'm able to maneuver that either through the barnyard or somehow to get it back there. It's gonna be kind of tricky. All right, I got all the dirt in the hole, and I got it all tracked in, got it packed down with the excavator, and I was a little bit short. I had a low spot. I had to go back and get one more bucket. But I think, overall, I think this is pretty good. I mean, it's not perfect. It's a little bit wavy, but it fixed the mud hole. That's what we needed to do. So now that we're back here with all this equipment, you start to see other jobs that you could probably do while you're here. So one thing I want to do is around this hay feeder right here. There used to be there's gravel under here somewhere, and there's some railroad ties marking the perimeter. But I want to try to scoop out all of this hay and manure and stuff that's around the hay feeder. And then I got this old stump here from an old pine tree. I want to get that popped out of the ground as well. And then after that, I think we're done back here. I think it'll be in pretty good shape. Well, I think I got done what I wanted. It's not perfect, but not even close to being perfect. But I got a lot of this scooped out around the hay feeder. You can see there's still some loose hay on top, and it's just not the right tool, a bucket, to be able to pick that up. About need a manure fork or some type of grapple to really try to grab that stuff, but a lot better than it was. And now I'll just see if I can get all this stuff put away. And I ended up with probably 1/3 of a load in the trailer here that I can add to the compost pile. So back here in the pine trees, I am not gonna put the water trough back over there again and turn into another mud hole. The plan is to put the water trough over here in the future. So we got this concrete pad here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna extend this concrete pad over to the fence, put the water trough right against the fence. And then this new concrete pad will slightly slope it toward the fence. So if any water gets on the concrete pad, it should run off into this gravel area over here, not where the cattle are stepping. And I think that'll prevent me from getting mud around my water trough, at least in this spot. Ellie, you're right in my camera, sweetheart. I know, you want to be on camera? Well, the dump trailer, the battery's pretty well dead on it. It didn't want to dump that last load of dirt. On the back of the toolbox here, there's a place to plug in a extension cord, and then that will charge the battery. Of course, where I parked the dump trailer, there's no power, so I just can't plug it in and keep it charged up. The battery only charges when it's hooked up to my pickup truck. And this is the first time I've ever had the battery get low. I know there's not enough charge to dump the compost that's in there, so hopefully tomorrow after this charges, we can get this dumped. But I think my plans in the future is I'll get a solar battery charger, hook it up to the battery, and then anytime it's parked, I might put some magnets or something on the back of the solar panel and just magnetize it to the top of this toolbox, and then I would think that would keep the battery charged and it'd be ready to use every time. Since we've been digging out these mud holes because of these major water leaks I've had over the last month, I think we'll head up to the water meter and we'll just double check, make sure we still don't have any leaks, and I'll show you what we're looking for. There's a little tattletale on there that can identify when you got water flowing. So my water meter's right here at the front of the property. All right, we'll go down inside, look at the water meter. You know, you can see the dial with the readout, but what we're looking for is this little red triangle piece. If that is perfectly still, there's no water flowing, but hopefully you can tell. It is very slowly spinning. So that means we still have water flowing. Now, ever since they called the other day and I went around and fixed a bunch of water leaks, I have not seen that dial stop spinning. So I think there's a good chance I still have another water leak somewhere. It's either that or every time I come up here and check it, I've got a water trough just slowly filling up, but I'm afraid I still might have a problem. So I guess I'm just gonna go around and check all the water troughs again. And you know, it'd be pretty obvious, I think, especially with all this dry dirt that we have now. That's probably where they went to the bathroom, right there. But I don't see, and it's not overflowing. It doesn't seem to be leaking. Hoses aren't wet. Everything looks good here. And then this water trough, it's not overflowing. The ground doesn't appear to be wet. It is flowing. They must have just drank out of it because I can hear it. Very slightly flowing. So hopefully that's why that thing was spinning in the meter. Now, one of the leaks I fixed was actually right here. This packing nut was leaking down the hydrant. You can see all of the hard water stains on there. So it's not wet no more. That was one of the things I fixed besides all the hoses. So as slow as that little indicator is moving, that could be something like maybe as little as like a drippy faucet. I'm not 100% sure. So It was probably just picking out a little water trough up where it was just barely not sealed up off all the way on that float. And I just have to keep my eye on it. But by no means was that spinning fast enough to be a major leak. I think all of those have been taken care of. But after this whole experience and this big water bill, I think it's really got me thinking a lot harder about getting a water well set up. Because if I have a leak on my own water well, it's really not going to cost me much of anything. You know, a little bit of electricity, but you know, or the worst thing that happened is like you pump your well dry. So I think next year we'll definitely have to really look harder at getting one of these wells working and get them tested to see whether we can use them. And if not, then we may have to start saving up money to drill a well. And I know drilling a well is expensive. I would prefer to use one of these existing shallow wells if I could. So we'll just have to wait and see what what ends up happening. But definitely need to get a well working. I think anytime you have livestock like this, you're going to end up using quite a bit of water for the livestock, but you also have the tendency of having leaks with all of these garden hoses everywhere and all the animals messing with them. So yeah, that's definitely going to have to look a lot harder into that next year. But I think for this video, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. And then hopefully tomorrow we will go pick up the pork and we will start building a milk stanchium for Ellie. I know said we were going to have it done like a week or so ago. I know we're behind. But yeah, hopefully we'll get that put together. And then here in a few days when Rebecca's off, maybe we can milk her for the first time together. But anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful day and I'll see you next time.